Hello, everybody, and welcome to our second session for International Trade Week. Today, we're going to discover how to take your business to the next level at South by Southwest. And Hugh and I aim to leave you with the knowledge and insights needed to make the most of your time, and dare I say money, at what I think is one of the best global events. My name is Conlon, and I'm the International Trade Director for UK Advertising. I first attended South by Southwest back in, I think it was 2014, as part of the IPA's fantastic community that they host over there. And over the years, my role has changed and I've become more involved in how UK advertising shows up and is represented at the event. The US is an important market to us at UK advertising as it leads the pack as the top destination for UK exports. It imports a massive 3.9 billion in advertising and marketing research services in 2021. That is actually a staggering increase from 1.2 billion in 2020, which indicates a significant untapped potential growth for our sector. But you didn't probably come here today to listen to me, so I would like to welcome to today's discussion Hugh Forrest, who is the Co-President and Chief Programming Officer for South by Southwest. A friendly little bit of admin, this is a live session, and we ask that you put your questions for Hugh or I into the chat, and we'll be able to get them to them at the end of today's session. So Hugh, welcome to our first session, I think, on South by Southwest 2024, which seems a bit bonkers, but it's more or less here. For those who don't know you, it would be great to hear a little bit more about you, your role, and what you do in South by Southwest as the festival person.
Absolutely. Well, it is. Let me first start by saying it is absolutely great to be here. Good morning from beautiful Austin, Texas. It is wonderful to have a chance to talk to some of our very, very creative friends from the UK and talk about South by Southwest. So a little bit more about me. I have been working at South by Southwest for far, far too long. I started here way back in the dark ages of 1989. South by Southwest started in 1987, so I came on board pretty early. Had a variety of different roles here over the years. Was head of what was called interactive or multimedia, which then changed to interactive. And then when we reorganized the company a few years back, I became head of all of programming, which means I oversee the conference content. I also oversee the music festival, the film festival, the comedy festival, as well as South by Southwest EDU. And then about a year ago, I also took on the role of co-president, which means that I oversee a little more of the business operations of the event. But it's been a heck of a ride for 30 plus years. I certainly never imagined that South by Southwest would be fortunate enough to grow as much as it has grown over the last 30 years. What is always neat and fun and refreshing and compelling and all these things about South by Southwest is it's an opportunity to interact with extremely creative people from all over the US, from all over the world, get inspired by these creative people, get new ideas from these creative people, form new connections, create new opportunities. And that is always something that keeps me going and pushes me forward.
I thought I was busy. Actually, it sounds like you're busier than me. And I'm like,
no, it's all good. It's not busy. It's interacting with and engaging with a very creative community, and that's always fun.
Yeah, it must be so busy in the run up to South by, which is in March. And can you remind me of the dates for 2024? Because I can't remember.
Dates for 2024 are March 8th through 15th. So that is the dates of the conference, Friday, March 8th through Friday, March 15th. The festival, music festival, film festival actually goes through Saturday, March 16th. So it is 8 days of all kinds of creativity. Certainly one of the big features of South by Southwest is that we bring together various different creative communities from around the world, and our strong belief, and I think one of the things that's helped us stay relevant and compelling to so many people is that this belief that creative people can learn from other creative people in their own industry. And that's very important, but creative people can also get a whole lot of new discovery, new insights, new information, new inspiration from learning from creative people in other industries. And that's one of, again, the features of South by Southwest, that if you're an advertising person, you can come in and hear, talk to a musician, hear a musician talk, hear about their creative process, what got them through when they were creatively blocked. Hear someone from the tech industry, hear someone who works in government, hear someone who's doing neat stuff with food. And again, all those different kinds of creative people interact with each other in a city that has always cultivated and celebrated creativity in the spring when the flowers are blooming and it's getting warmer, and it's just a combination for all kinds of good things to happen.
I totally agree with you. I think one of the things why South by Southwest, as people, I think a lot of people know, is one of my favorite festival stroke events that I get to work on each year. But we often talk about the serendipitous moments that occur at South by that you can't get anywhere else, because I think it's fair to say that South by loves a queue. And but those cues, we feel like those cues actually can work really well from networking, because it's the person who's in front of you or behind you when you're in the long queue. Maybe it's for the 2 p.m. kind of keynote speaker. Those people end up being your kind of networks or contacts for the rest of your career. And I guess on that, because that's obviously my experience of it, but is there with that kind of, I guess it is such a melting pot of people from all across, I'll call it creatives, the wider creative sector. But how do you feel that businesses from the UK could leverage that diversity? Is there kind of any success stories or good stories that you've heard from the past of people who've had other serendipitous moments, I guess, or have leveraged it in a really good way?
Well, I think serendipitous moments are certainly something that we think we specialize in at South by Southwest. We're very proud of, and are certainly, again, a strong feature of the event. Period, exclamation point. That said, I always counsel people, groups, if they're coming to South by Southwest, if they're thinking about coming to South by Southwest, to prepare as much as possible. Have a schedule, know who you want to meet, what you want to learn, where you think you can meet these people, where you think you can learn that. It is always, always, always much easier to have a plan and pivot from that plan when a serendipitous encounter happens, as opposed to going into an event, whether it's South by Southwest or anywhere else, thinking that serendipity will just magically happen. Again, my biggest point of advice for anyone thinking about going to South by Southwest is, put some effort into it. Put together a schedule. Again, figure out who you want to meet, what you want to gain, what kind of opportunities you want to try to create for yourself, and then that also helps to feel a little less overwhelmed, which is something that can sometimes happen with so much going on at South by Southwest if you have that plan. But again, at South by Southwest and in life, work on a plan, and when opportunities to do even better things come up, take those opportunities, but have a plan.
I totally agree with you. And we often say to people, again, have your plan, but also know that your plan is going to change on the day and probably on the hour, but know what things you might want to go and see or where you might want to be. And I'm not going to hold you to ransom on this, because I know it is a mammoth undertaking that you guys do each year. But for people who may be considering South by Southwest and haven't been before, I guess there's some key things that we want to share with them now about planning. So ticket prices, I'm assuming there's a rate change that's going to happen. So, and then the other thing I was just thinking of to help on that point of planning, roughly when does the app go live to help people with that planning? Roughly, I'm not going to hold you to, as I say, I'm not going to hold you to ransom on it.
Those are both great questions. Ticket prices actually increase at 11:59 p.m. That's 23:59 in UK speak on Pacific time on Thursday, November 9th. So ticket prices increase later this week. So if you want to save on your registration, please consider buying this week. The South by Southwest online schedule is actually live. That's the desktop version now. It will not have any, it will have listings of conference content. It will not yet have days and times, but if you go on SXSW or schedule.sxsw.com, you can find roughly 500 sessions that are currently confirmed. The app, I believe, will go live in early January. That typically goes live when we have the actual times, days and times of the various sessions, as well as festival elements. So again, stay tuned in early January 2024 for the app to go live.
Yeah, I think that's normally when we start going in, because the app is really good to help you see the full lineup of speakers. And then again, we encourage people to look who those speakers are, how they're relevant to your business. And quite often it is just going on LinkedIn and sort of reaching out to them to say that you're also going to be in town.
Absolutely.
Planning is key, I agree.
Yeah, and just to reinforce that point, I mean, the planning piece is so important. I've emphasized it, you've emphasized it, but I also think that a portion of that is it's never too early to start scheduling meetings at South by Southwest. So if you know people who are going, if you think people are going, connect with them through the South by Southwest in-house social system or LinkedIn. You know, I'm going to be in Austin in March. Can we set up a meeting? Again, it's never too early to start doing that. And the people who are most successful, most productive at South by Southwest really have most of their meetings set up by early mid-January.
Okay, well, that's going to be my takeaway. That one. And actually, I think that's a really good point, the South by Southwest social, because it's quite unique to South by. In other events we do, it doesn't have the same element to the app. And for those, again, who maybe didn't use it a lot this year when they were there or don't know about it, I think it would be good for you and I to kind of give a hint towards how that actually works. And if you have purchased your tickets from me, I encourage people to link it to the social app straight away, because it's just, then it's done for you, because you have to do it before you can get your ticket anyways on the day, if I remember correct.
The social app is as you say, is a way to communicate with other registrants, other attendees. There's some safeguards put in there that relatively prevents spam. So you'll mainly get contacts from people who want to create a meeting and certainly, or want to have a meeting. Certainly it's your option if you want to meet with that person or not. But again, a really good way to pre-connect with people. And again, I think you always want to try to strike this balance of pre-planning stuff, planning stuff, creating meetings beforehand, and then, oh, wow, I bumped into so-and-so, had no idea she or he was going to be here, want to set up a meeting with that person on site. But again, to depend completely on that serendipitous encounters is probably not the right way to go.
No, I totally agree. So on the schedule, and kind of going back to this idea of, well, what I think South by is accessible to everybody. Last week, you announced the lineup from the panel picker session. And again, that is something that is so unique to South by Southwest. It's not kind of an opportunity that you get at any other event that I work on, I don't think anyways. And I think using the panel picker program is one way for UK companies to really kind of lean into South by. So I think it would be good if we could hear from you a bit more on, let's start with, what is the panel picker process?
Great. Well, I'll start with last week, and then we'll go back further from that. On Wednesday, November 1st, we did our biggest content announcement of the season, conference content announcement of the season. That was roughly 450 sessions spread across 24 different tracks. We will add some more content to that over the next 3 months, but no single announcement will be as many sessions as that. All those 450 sessions came in via the panel picker process, which is something that we've used for roughly 15 years at this point. It is a way for our community to enter speaking proposals during the summer. This year, we got about 4,500 total speaking proposals from across the US and around the world. Predictably, a lot of these speaking proposals focused on AI is the greatest thing ever, AI is the worst thing ever, but also all kinds of different topics. We really like using this panel picker system for a variety of reasons. One, it creates engagement with our community at a time of the year that we typically did not have engagement previously. Two, it helps us understand what our community is thinking. That there are so many proposals on AI is indicative that this community is is fascinated with AI. It brings new and different voices into the event. And that keeps the event relevant. So it's always a different kinds of people speaking, different people speaking. It also has opened us up, the panel picker process has opened us up to a lot of different verticals that also showcase very, very creative people. And in that sense is, pushed further and further into the mission of South by Southwest, which is to help creative people achieve their goals. So again, the panel picker process typically opens in late June, the entry process, i.e. entering speaking proposals, that will go for about 3 weeks. So into mid-July. So encourage people on this call to mark your calendar for late June, early July 2024. That's when speaking proposals will be accepted for South by Southwest 2025. We always get hundreds of great speaking proposals from creatives in the UK. Certainly one of the challenges of the panel picker is there are far, far more great proposals than we have room for. It is an extremely creative, extremely competitive process, meaning about 1 in every 7 ideas, only about 1 in every 7 ideas is accepted. But again, it's a great way to for us to communicate with our community and reflect our community. And I am a strong believer in the power of community. And I think that's, again, one of the things that has made South by Southwest so compelling over the years.
And for those of us who are in advertising and marketing services, the way to remember when panel picker opens is it's the week after Cannes Lions. So we all come back from a week in the south of France where we've worked our socks off, and we go straight into a panel picker boot camp that myself and a good friend John Burkhart we run together here in the UK.
Well, I would also suggest, I think that's a great way to remember it. I also think that for people who are attending South by Southwest 2024, really start thinking about speaking proposals then. I saw this session and it was great. I can do something even better. I saw this session and it wasn't so good. I shouldn't do something like that for the panel picker. So I think you can get a lot of great ideas for the next year from what you see at the event and what you experience at the event.
I will agree with you, because the first year I went out, I've joked to you about this, but I did find it overwhelming because there are so many stages and so many sessions. And by the end of my time at South by, I was like, I've got it. I know where I'm supposed to be. And then you knew South by inside out and you were ready for the next year. So I feel like if anybody is considering the panel picker route and is debating whether they should go to South by or not for March, my opinion would be get yourself out there, because that's the best way to kind of immerse yourself in the South by Southwest world and understand what, I guess, you and the advisory committee are looking for from panel pickers. I know how the panel picker submissions work, but for those who don't, could you just give a little overview of how the judging, because it's got its different rounds that it goes through, just so everybody is totally aware of that as well?
Sure. We have, again, about a 3-week process where people can enter speaking proposals. That can be for a solo presentation or for a panel. If you are entering a panel, certainly one of our strong core beliefs is that we like diversity. So please don't put in a panel with 4 men. That will not do well in our in our system. We will ask when you enter your speaking proposal, you're entering a title and you're entering a description. One of the things that we certainly put more emphasis on in recent years, we also ask for a video. So it's great if you can create a 1 or 2 minute video to go with your speaking proposal. It doesn't have to be professionally created. It's fine to do it on an iPhone, but just give us a little more context on your speaking style, your energy, your enthusiasm for this topic. And as someone who goes through thousands and thousands of these panel picker entries, a energetic video makes all the difference in the world. Wow, it really jumps off the paper now, the proposal. I will also say encourage people to be very, very diligent in terms of proofreading, in terms of getting proper grammar on your speaking proposal. Certainly fine, and a lot of people are doing this at this point, to use ChatGPT to write your proposal, but I would encourage you to go back in with a human voice and make sure it all aligns with what you want to say. I also think that I will also say that a strong, catchy title that really encapsulates what you want to talk about in your session is very, very important. Once all these ideas are pulled together at the deadline, and again, it's likely to be 4,500, 5,000 ideas in July 2024 for the 2025 event. We post all of these ideas on a interface that anyone who can get online can look at. They can vote a yay or nay on a given speaking proposal. It's simple internet thumbs up, thumbs down fashion. They can also comment on any of the speaking proposals. In addition to that public voting, we have an advisory committee that reviews all the speaking proposals, and typically we're having 3 or 4 people on the advisory committee review a given speaking proposal, and staff also reviews all of them. So each speaking proposal has a composite score that's made up of public voting, advisory board voting, and staff voting. The reason to have that is we never wanted people who have a large social media following to have an unfair advantage in the number of votes they get. So it's a complex process. That voting typically happens in August. We like it when sessions get a lot of public voting. That indicates buzz, but that is not the again, sole arbiter of what is accepted for the event. It is for our staff who goes through all these panel picker proposals, and certainly I'm doing a lot of that also. It is it at times can be an exhausting process, simply because there's so many great ideas. Again, that's where the video is important. It's also encourage you to people who are entering proposals in the panel picker to be as original, as creative, as left of center as possible, because know that we'll get like 100 different ideas on how AI will help your business. So how can you make that idea stand out, be a little more dynamic than others? I think one of the things that a lot of people do that is interesting is comparing something that is current with something that has happened in the past. Gives our audience a kind of different way to understand these things. But again, if you're thinking about how to hack this process, remember that you're trying to create something that stands out in a very, very crowded and very, very crowded with strong proposals field. So think about that.
I would love to know the stats on how many panel picker submissions included AI in either their title or in the body of the.
When last I did a search on AI in title or description, it was about, I believe, 1,000 of the 4,500 total ideas. Now, the upside here is that, and the upside of South by Southwest is that it's AI in all its many forms, from how AI, how it's technically being developed, to how AI is impacting music or other kinds of art, to how it can potentially be used in filmmaking processes. And I also say that, I think that for better, for worse, South by Southwest is certainly as susceptible to as everyone else is at this point to hype cycles, and the hype cycle of AI is very strong. We are in that, and at present, and hence so many AI related proposals in the panel picker. That said, I also strongly believe that this community that attends South by Southwest wants to understand all the implications of this technology, how they can use this technology to take their career to the next level, and hence we'll have a lot of focus on AI this coming March in Austin.
So now we know definitely one of the themes for 2024 is going to be AI. Is there any other secrets that you can spill with us today on what's coming up for March 2024?
I mean, I think that in addition to a lot of focus on AI and a lot of tech focus on AI, we're certainly trying to do more with regards to quantum. It's the next wave coming in, the next hype wave coming in, and it's harder to understand than AI, particularly for non-tech folks, but something that we need to understand. We need to understand the power of potential power of this technology. Certainly, we've done a lot of focus on climate change the last few years. We will continue to do that in 2024. Focus on energy, sustainable energy, alternative energy sources. That will continue. Lots of continued focus on food, which kind of fits into the previous two in terms of sustainable food options. But particular to the community I'm talking to today, I mean, we have a track called ABE, which is Advertising and Brand Experience, which is focusing on the best new ideas in the advertising industry, how this industry interacts with other industries that are South by Southwest, ranging from music to film and TV to video games. Again, how advertising industry is using AI. So a lot of great content there. I will also say that, and I referenced this a few minutes ago, emphasizing the importance of DEIB or DEI or DEIB, that's diversity, equity, inclusion, has been a strong focus at South by Southwest last few years. It will continue to be a focus in 2024. Two big reasons for that. One, it is the right thing to do to point to a world that has more diversity, equity, and inclusion, that is more just in that way. Two, we are an event about creativity. Different kinds of people think different and in different creative ways. So showcasing DEI in all its many forms, showcasing different kinds of creative people definitely helps us achieve that goal, achieve that mandate of fostering creativity.
Fantastic. I know that the advertising and the brand track is one that we are heavily involved in. We also really like the sports track. And I encourage more UK sports, especially as we look ahead to the World Cup coming to the US. And I think the Rugby World Cup is also coming to the US. So I feel like the sports community from the UK should be all over South by Southwest for the next couple of years. And I would definitely encourage people to be looking at Panel Picker from the sports community as well. I can see there's one or two questions in the chat, but before we kind of come to those, and if anybody else does have questions, please drop them in. I'm really keen because obviously we don't see you during the festival because you are very, very busy. I know you're on stages and you do the kind of the introduction and the what I call the end session wrap up. But I would really love to hear from you if there's a success story or maybe an experience that stands out for you where a business has just absolutely thrived because of something that happened at South by Southwest or being at South by Southwest. Is there any major deals that went down that you're like, this was the moment for us where we all could go and have a drink afterwards?
Well, let me give two examples there. One, the most obvious, and two, a slightly less obvious one. The most obvious one was certainly Twitter in 2007. And I say that, in the context that we all have maybe slightly different opinions of social media in 2023, and particularly Twitter or X or whatever it's called today in 2023. But in 2007, we had been pushing into social media a lot from beginning in 2004. There was this young entrepreneur that had been coming to South by Southwest for a couple of years, and he had this new project that was something about a bird, whatever. The young entrepreneur was Ev Williams, really nice guy, had some great ideas. Hey, well, this new idea seems cool, and he wants to do this pretty big activation at South by Southwest. Great, let's do this. And certainly Twitter just, it had come out before South by Southwest 2007, but it really, really, really caught fire with this community at South by Southwest. They understood what it was. They saw the power. They particularly saw the power of how it helped navigate South by Southwest, and you could see what your friend was doing, what parties they were going to, what panels they were going to. And it saw a huge spike in usership relative to its previous user base by being at South by Southwest. I mentioned that story because after Twitter in 2007, every startup wanted to come to South by Southwest to achieve that same kind of bump, to enjoy that same kind of bump. Every VC, every advertising person wanted to come to South by Southwest to discover what this cool new app is, or what the next cool new app is. And that really, kind of was the point where we moved from being an event that was primarily about music with some tech to an event that's was more focused on tech with a strong music component also. So that was a big part of our where we are now, and certainly was a huge part in the growth spurt that we enjoyed from 2007 to 2015. Something that's stories of businesses that may be less obvious. I'm thinking of a startup from Austin, a startup from Austin that is getting a lot of buzz internationally now, nationally, internationally, that had a great start at South by Southwest in 2018, was this Austin-based 3D housing company called Icon. And 2018, they built a 3D house in Austin, which if you hear they're telling you the story, it finished by a day before South by Southwest started. They also went through the South by Southwest pitch program, South by Southwest Accelerator, which is our in-house competition. They won that. They were able to get a lot of registrants to go visit the 3D printed house. They are certainly one of our biggest success stories in recent years. They're now working with the U.S. Army to build Army barracks. They're working on prototype houses for Mars, or dwellings for Mars. They're working on affordable housing options, much more affordable housing options in Austin and various places in the U.S. So again, they are a huge South by Southwest success story, and they are very nice to credit a lot of their success that they're enjoying now with the connections that they made at South by Southwest to 2018. So again, in both these instances, it's people with very different kinds of ideas that maybe didn't make sense till you saw them in action, leveraging that platform that is South by Southwest to meet all kinds of people from various different industries, to meet lots of media people, to get a big push for their idea, their product, their concept, and create new opportunities that lead to much bigger things down the road.
Perfect. I'm going to be looking out for those guys. And you've mentioned houses, which makes me think which makes me think of of the UK house. And it would be wrong of me not to do a plug at this moment to let people know that myself and David Moody and his colleagues at the Department of Business and Trade there's a venue out there called UK House, and we encourage everyone from the creative community to come out and join us. My contact details will be at the end of this session, and you can find out more from me. But it's UK House has got bigger each year, I think it's fair to say, Hugh. And actually, on that note,
let me say, just add on to that. I mean, one of the things that's been so neat to see at South by Southwest over the last 10, 15 years is the growth of these international houses, whether it's UK House or Australia House or the Canada House. Someone contacted me yesterday about doing a Nigeria House. I mean, we bring together, we're lucky enough, we're fortunate enough, we're privileged enough to bring together creative people from all over the world. And it's one of the few times in Austin, Texas, where you hear different kinds of languages on the street, those kinds of connections that are made at these houses and at the event between different creative industry people from different countries is a strong reminder that we have a lot more in common than we have not in common. And that's something that's very, very important to me.
Yeah. And on that note, Luke has a question here that, because what activations, and I'm like, there are so many activations, it's hard to remember half of them when you're there for the week. But what activations, and that is outside of talking on the main stage, so I'll refer to that as the kind of the keynote and the side stages. But have you seen agencies do that have stood out or impressed you? And I think with agencies, it is more kind of companies and brands that really do the activations rather than agencies, because for me, I feel like agencies in our space, they go for the stage slots, they go for panel picker or via alternative routes. But what activation has stood out for you?
Well, again, I'll go with the two-pronged approach so I can cover all my bases. I mean, certainly the one that I think stands out to me and stands out to so many attendees was, I believe, 2018 when Westworld had this giant activation at South by Southwest. What they did, this was the TV show Westworld, they took over a small town, which was roughly 20 miles from Austin. They hired actors. They gave away a few tickets to this thing. So if you were lucky enough to get a ticket, you got on a bus, they dropped you off in this town and you were smack in the middle of Westworld. The number of people who got to do this was very, very, very small, but it was such a cool activation that it got tons of, word of mouth publicity, buzz. Did you get to go to Westworld? Wow, I didn't get to go, but did you go? So it was literally one of the most talked about things. And I think that was 2018. So that was really, really neat. That's my example of an agency that put a heck of a lot of money into this thing, hired actors, retrofitted this entire town to make it special, and got a lot of positive buzz, positive results out of that. But I will also say that, South by Southwest, you can be very creative on smaller budgets. And I'll go back to, 14, 15 years ago at this point. And yes, the world was in a different place, but one of the startups that launched at South by Southwest in the wake of Twitter was in 2009 when this young entrepreneur from New York named Dennis Crowley launched Foursquare at South by Southwest. And Foursquare, some people may be familiar with it. It certainly did not quite have the longevity of Twitter, but it was this check-in app. And there was a time when we all were infatuated with how check-in apps were going to revolutionize our experience. So you checked in when you went to a restaurant, or you checked in when you went to, get coffee, something like that. But the activation, quote unquote, that Dennis did was he was on a sidewalk across the street from the convention center, and he had had his chalk. He created what was literally a Foursquare grid. Do they play Foursquare in the UK where it's this game with a ball that you have four squares on? So it was this chance to meet the founder, play Foursquare with him, and hear about his new app that he was launching. This thing, whereas Westworld probably cost millions and millions of dollars, this thing probably cost $10 at most. So the point here is you can be as companies that are most successful, individuals that are most successful at an event like South by Southwest are the ones that are most creative. And that that creativity may be aided by a large budget. It may not have a large budget, but be creative and you'll have good results.
I think the Westworld one, as soon as you said it, memories came flooding back, because I was one of the unlucky ones. I didn't get to go on the bus out to the town.
I didn't get to go either, so we can bond on that. Okay.
Yeah, because my memory is on the last night when they were closing it, the crew turned up. So you actually, and they interacted in their characters. And one of my friends was really lucky to do that. And she was in the bar with like Sandy Newton. So they were all there. And I think what it shows you for like looking back at it, it's the power of talent and celebrities that get people buzzing, because you know instantly with the film, you know who's in town, and everybody starts WhatsApping saying, I just spotted so-and-so on the street. So there is, I think that's again something that South by does, having all these creative people, some who are celebrities, some are not, all in this one kind of area of downtown that you can kind of chime in and use. And if you don't mind, another thing I'd like to say about activations around, let's say, smaller budgets, is again going back to this idea of UK House, because we travel en masse as a community to promote UK creativity. There is a way in which you can kind of join in with us on that, because we do some of the activations out there and a bit of the promotion stuff. So again, that's another way of being budget friendly, so that your budget goes towards your pass and your accommodation and travel. And again, I would encourage anyone who was thinking down that route to reach out to myself or David Moody to kind of discuss that a bit more. We haven't even talked about South by Southwest Sydney, but we may. We're for the purpose of this, we're focusing in on Austin. But David Moody does ask, and it's a great question: how does South by Southwest plan to evolve over the next 5 years? Because obviously you've made a move this year for the first time to go to Sydney. Is Sydney coming back? Can we expect more announcements of global expansion from South by Southwest?
Great question there. Sydney is coming back. The Sydney event was 2 weeks ago. I was lucky enough to go there for about 4 days. It was great. It was certainly much smaller than Austin, but sizes and everything. It had a really good vibe to it, good buzz, good content, and so a very, very strong start. To the second part of that question, yes, looking to do some other international expansions. How soon that will happen, not sure at this point, but think there is room to expand the brand to a few other places without overextending the brand. Then the third part of the question, what will South by Southwest look like in 5 years? And I'll say take that as, what will South by Southwest Austin look like in 5 years? My answer there is, I'm not sure I have a crystal ball on that, but I will say that South by Southwest has typically looked a lot like Austin. So what will South by Southwest look like in 5 years? It will look like what Austin looks like in 5 years. And I say that we have started doing more transportation content at South by Southwest. Why do we do that? Because Tesla now is based in Austin, and that's created a whole transportation industry here where there wasn't an industry before. 10 years ago, roughly 10 years ago, we added a health and med tech track to South by Southwest. Why was that? Well, one, you could see that the tech industry was going to have so much impact on medicine moving forward. But two, and much more importantly so, the University of Texas had decided to build a medical school in Austin, and knew that would change so much of the personality of the city. So again, if in 5 years Austin becomes the sneaker capital of the world, then I think we'll do more sneaker content at South by Southwest. If we continue to develop lots of AI content in Austin, you'll see even more AI content at South by Southwest. If the city veers into some other creative direction, you'll see that. I mean, South by Southwest, again, has always very much followed the creative lead of Austin, and that formula has been very, very successful.
And I think you can feel that when you're in Austin. You can feel that the power of the local community is behind the festival. And I think actually that's an amazing takeaway for me, one that I've never considered before, which is going to go on my list. And bear in mind, I've been doing this since 2014. I think what you've just said there is we should all go and look at what the makeup of Austin is, because it has invented itself as a startup hub. And so from a comms or from our sector point of view, there are lots of startups who are going to be at South by Southwest who are looking for a base that same week when they're in Austin, who will need comms, branding support, so untapped new business potential. But again, I think that idea of being, is kind of going back to what you said at the start, planning your meetings, trying to get them out sooner rather than later, looking at the lay of the land of Austin is something that I've never actually thought about, and I will do it slightly different now. But getting to know who's actually in there, who's got a HQ, who's got a base there, because that's where you can start now as well, trying to reach out and see who fits in with your specialisms and that might want to have a meeting, brunch, coffee, whatever it is, during your time at South by. So I think that is a brilliant insight. I'm conscious that it is 5:45 in the evening here in the UK. So what I would like to do is say a massive thank you to you, Hugh, and I'm looking forward to seeing you out in Austin in March, because I'm definitely going. I think we've already got 30 UK companies signed up to come with us.
Wonderful.
And there's room for more. And a reminder that ticket prices go up this Thursday evening. I think it's Thursday evening our time. So if anyone is considering going, either book your ticket by Thursday or feel free to reach out to me, and I will be happy to answer any questions about which I would recommend as the right tickets to purchase for that week out there. But otherwise, a massive thank you to you, Hugh. I'd like to do this again, if you don't mind. I'll put you on the spot before Panel Picker 2024.
Absolutely. Thank you. Would love to do this again. Again, thank you for having me on the podcast and allowing me to talk a little bit about South by Southwest. Let me just reiterate what I think is one of the main themes here is that, South by Southwest is thousands and thousands of different things going on over the space of 8 days. It can be at times overwhelming. So A, the more you plan, the better. B, the more you have a guide that can help you with the planning, the better, which there you go. There's your guide. And you will get much more out of the event. If you have someone who's gone through the process, who understands, the ways to maximize your experience, that's really the strong way to go, in my opinion.
No, I agree. So I look forward to having 60 companies come out with me this year now. We will see you in Austin. Enjoy the rest of your day, because it's still morning time for you. And we're going to sign up. As you can see, everyone's leaving the office behind me.
Thank you so much. We will see you in Austin in March. And for people watching the podcast, thanks for tuning in. You can always connect with me via LinkedIn or just email me directly, hugh@sxsw.com. I'm here to help answer any questions that your host can't answer, but I think she has all the answers as well.
Hugh's LinkedIn is in the chat for anyone who hasn't got the chat open, so you can go to him direct, as is David Moody's, as is mine. So yeah, that's us. See you in Austin in March. See you later, Hugh. Thank you so much.
Thank you.